Kate, CMO at Banksy, which is a solution for banks to onboard Generation Z customers with our family banking solution. Meet Susie. She is 16 and she runs a popular YouTube channel. We have bad news though. She will never become a traditional bank customer. Generation Z has alternatives such as challenger banks and tech giants. Fintechs in Europe have already managed to take 7% of the industry's total annual revenue. There are 2 billion Gen Z kids in the world who will make up 40% of global consumers by 2020. Combine these with their spending power, and banks could be missing out on a huge customer base. This is why we created a white label solution for banks to reach and onboard Generation Z customers, build brand loyalty, and develop financial literacy. Our solution is a mobile banking application with 2 user interfaces and the smart coin box. Children are onboarded into the financial ecosystem early on by setting savings goals, cash allowances, regular monthly transfers, and much more. Using our own age-adaptive engine, Zemo, we ensure that children are delivered age-appropriate functions and user interfaces. The app starts out as a virtual pocket money manager and then transitions into a full-blown digital banking application for teenagers. Customer acquisition happens on 2 main channels, acquiring new customers and reaching existing customers, extended family members, and children. Market trends show that B2C applications for Gen Z finances are gaining significant market validation, and banks are starting to react too. Our market potential consists of 6,250 banks in Europe total, from which we see a realistic obtainable market of 25 banks in the next 5 years, resulting in revenues of over 7 million euros. Our competition is threefolded. The B2C market is crowded. This is why we decided to focus on the B2B market. What sets us apart is our age-adaptive engine, our smart coin box, and our Gen Z research expertise. Our business model is an initial license fee model, and their 2 income streams are app and hardware sales to banks. Acquiring these banks takes effort. This is why we participate in fintech accelerator programs, continue an account-based marketing strategy, and have strategic partnerships in place. We only launched 11 months ago, but since then we secured 200,000 euros in seed investment, started to work with Polish Alior Bank, and delivered a working mobile application. We will acquire a new client by Q1, and they're looking for a Series A investor currently. Our team has significant experience in delivering digital banking solutions and marketing them to the target audience. We also have a unique Gen Z advisory board who help us design, ideate, and validate our product. We're looking forward to questions, and please let me introduce you to our founder, Gergely Trifonov.
Okay, so Alior Bank pilot, tell me about it. Numbers, how did it happen? Is it free, commercial?
What do you mean by free or commercial?
So you said you did a pilot with Alior Bank?
No, we are currently in the process of doing it.
Sorry?
We are in the process of doing the pilot with Alior. They have an accelerator program called RBR Start. We got invited to it, and now we are reaching the launch of the pilot program.
Okay, what are you going to launch?
Hopefully in Q1.
What?
What?
What? The product itself?
Banksy, yes, the first implementation of Banksy.
Okay. So traction so far 0?
Yeah.
Okay, just...
Well, yeah, so we're in this pilot project with Alior. So this is our first customer since we started 11 months ago. And we're currently negotiating with other banks. For example, in Switzerland, we're going to participate in their design workshop for Gen Z customers this Friday. And we also talked to UBS in Switzerland and to Swisscom.
I think that's more of my question is how do you get through the doors of these banks?
Okay, so first of all, we have an extensive network, personal network, since the guys here, the founders, have worked in this fintech scene and digital banking solutions for over 20 years. So this is one channel we rely on, and also on our account-based marketing strategy. So we created like buyer personas who we are going to target at these banks. And then we use LinkedIn and other channels. Of course, also personal networking. This is how we get to the customers currently.
And partnerships?
Yeah, so we also have partnerships. We partnered up with the digital agencies who did, for example, a similar project for UBS. And we also partnered up with schools to get real feedback from our end customers and end users.
But sorry again, getting back to this point. So you're practically offering your own product, or it's a white label solution that the banks is offering, or what's?
Yes,
product
our
itself?
core offer is a white label application, which can be customized to the bank's design guidelines, and also the banks can choose which functions they want to use.
So how you make sure that once you enter into the door, as Anthony asked, that they're going to push to their customers because you're actually leaving to them to get the final users, and you're very much dependent on their efforts into this category.
Yes, this is true. So we hope that the banks want to implement this and market this, but of course we're giving them advice, and their current strategy is that we acquire the children through their parents. So we first go to the parents and tell them that it is important that children learn to handle their finances early on, but we are currently in our first pilot project, so we're building our our go-to-market strategy for banks, how they could do this. And usually they also have a youth strategy, and this is how they combine. So they combine their existing youth strategy with this product.
And part of our strategy is to research the market, research the end users. So we do a lot of interviews with kids and parents.
How many?
Many?
Interview.
Okay, so last time we had 30 kids in our office, and we did this user research with them.
In total.
Yeah, and then we also had a user research with Alior. There were 10 kids total.
So you spoke with 40 kids in total.
Yes, we have 40 kids total right now, and we're planning to extend this to quantitative research in different European countries.
So I have two questions for you. One is, why are you not working with parents, since it's parents that are going to actually be deciding rather than the kids? And the other one is, this sounds to me like something that the banks will regard as absolutely core to their own understanding of their future client base. Why do you think they're going to want you to be doing this work? Is it not something they're going to want to do in-house?
Okay, so to answer your first questions, we also talked to parents. So the interviews, parents were there, and we had like youth kids research. They had conversations. How do they handle their finances in the family? So it was not only limited to children, but also to parents. And for the second question.
Did you understand the question, or do you want me to say it again?
I
Yeah.
just listened to her. Could you please repeat the second?
Sure. It's this seems something that's very core to banks' entire future strategy, that they understand the next generation of customers. Why do you think they want to outsource this?
Because we see that banks need to renew and need to catch up with the competition, just like the challenger banks like Revolut and Monzo, who are also, actually Monzo is also targeting this segment. So they need to catch up, and based on our experience, they like to bring in external partners for this.
And what is their key pain point? So when you go to a bank, what are you telling them that they're saying, oh yeah, that's what I need and I can't build it myself, or that's what's so unique that I can't offer with my current solutions?
Yeah, I believe that with most of the fintech solutions right now, there is a trend that banks tend to cooperate with outside manufacturers or like suppliers, because our product is really easy to implement. So we do the legwork for them, we do the research, we have the marketing expertise, and this is what we're offering them. And it's just easier for them to outsource it, and also.
No, I guess my question is more around, I understand why a bank would be interested in acquiring or partnering with an established challenger, which could be a kid proposition. It's mostly for the brand and the established customer base. What about your solution? What's proprietary in your solution versus what they could be offering now or with other PFM platforms, I guess?
At the moment, we are quite unique because of the age-adaptive engine that we have. Currently, nobody has this, and we also have the smart Coinbox concept that complements the application, and it's also a very good marketing tool for the banks that they can give to families with kids, and this can also be a facilitator for kids to save and
Got it.
use the app.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you, Banksy. Our next startup is going to be
I'm John White. We are Fractal, and we believe SME banking is broken. Why? Most European banks put SMEs into a category, a segment, and they assume that businesses with 25 million turnover or 2 million turnover have identical needs. So it's no surprise that actually the majority of SMEs feel banking services aren't tailored to their needs, and it's one size fits all. So business owners feel underserved and undervalued. The SME funding gap across EU countries varies considerably, anywhere from tens of billions into the hundreds of billions. And this is fundamental money that these organizations need to fuel their next stage of growth. And SMEs underpin the global economy. Most businesses, though, to be fair to the banks, are actually invisible to them. They follow pretty much a rigid 80-20 rule. Commercial banks make 85% of their revenues just from 25% of their customers. And that other 75% is left untapped due to a lack of data, intelligence, and understanding their needs. We at Fractal believe we want to shift the 80-20 thinking. We also believe that we live in a new era. Traditionally, and for hundreds of years, relationship managers have been the core partnership between the SME and the bank, and that's great, but we've seen an evolution of new recommendation engines and algorithms that allow customers to be served recommended products based upon their preferences. At Fractal, we've been busy beavering away to build the next product to buy engine. We actually believe that customers now expect a next product to buy experience. All of those line items that you see underneath are all things that we all expect from all businesses. And we actually really like it when someone comes to us, a business comes to us and actually has something that's personalized to us, and they've actually taken the time and the consideration to think of our needs first when they make a recommendation from their business. How is that? How do we power that at Fractal? You might have heard the phrase data is gold. We actually believe that intelligence is gold. In the old world, we'd have static identities of these businesses. There would be paper-based or data stored in disparate systems. We actually have the benefit of living in a new world where we have a dynamic identity of these businesses, and we can see day-to-day purchase behaviors and full assets. So while banks are building innovative propositions, they're generally standalone solutions. They take these data sources that you see on the bottom right, it could be their own data, outsourced data, or open banking data, and build new customer propositions. What we bring to the table at Fractal is a new data intelligence API layer, which can allow us to aggregate, categorize, analyze, score, and start creating cash flow forecasting so that the bank can actually start predicting what their SME customers might need. So what does this mean in real terms? So Fractal empowers banks to create entirely new personalized products for their customers. 144 days is the average in the UK for lending, 30 days to come up with a cash management plan, historical view of payments, and manual application for protection. We believe we want to turn that into instant decisioning, automated multi-product savings, anticipate payments and personalize the FX, and be able to do predictive pricing and flexible cover around insurance. McKinsey have been doing a lot of research around next product to buy engines, and you can see the dramatic results here. Our customers are saying the same thing. And this is the Fractal team. We're made up of former Googlers, former bankers, and former digital service providers who've been leading digital transformation with these commercial banks. We are regulated by the FCA, authorized for open banking, authorized for payment institution, and our global distribution partner of Deloitte. Thank you. The automation economy is here.
Thanks for this. Great pitch. I have a question around the data intelligence part. So now with open banking, right, there's more players that are trying to be that API data layer, and the categorization is becoming increasingly widely accessible. I think even Equifax, announced recently being able to do that. I guess, do you see that as a threat or an opportunity?
An opportunity, and it's an excellent question. The main reason why we see it as an opportunity, obviously, if I had more than 3 minutes, I'd be able to share with you a little bit more around those data sources. So listed in there was the bank's data, open banking data, Experian, Core Credit, the accounting packages like Xero. Our view is bring as many APIs to the table as you like. What we want to do is aggregate those and then start categorizing and analyzing them. So the more data, the merrier. A lot of banks suffer from a problem of having one single view of their customer because a lot of SMEs are multi-banked. And so getting access to that accounting ledger and getting access to all of their other data banking relationships is critical.
I'm just not clear what your business model is. Who's your customer? What do what's your income stream going to come from?
Our customer is a license fee model with the banks themselves on a per user basis, per SME basis. So our customer is the bank.
Can you put some numbers on it? What has your research suggested to you can do?
Oh, right. Well, so we are currently targeting 125 banks across 25 innovation-driven economies. We've chosen the top 5 banks of those innovation-driven economies primarily because they own 90% of the relationships of SMEs globally. We've chosen innovation-driven economy specifically because they have great infrastructure, high smartphone penetration, and ideally what we are looking to do is set up a license fee model where we charge per user, per SME, per basis. We're a young business. We've only been going for 3 years. We started selling the product in earnest 8 months ago. We have 4 live proof of concepts with 4 of the biggest banks across Europe. These banks range from having anywhere between 200 to 500,000 SMEs on their books. And we are going through gradual POCs with them step by step, starting with 50 SMEs and then gradually rolling out.
Thank you.
But just to understand the product a bit more, are you a data layer on top of the core banking system, or what exactly are you offering?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you spotted that. So when I was talking about the standalone solutions piece, it's not that we don't like standalone solutions. You might have noticed RBS, NatWest, last week launched a new SME bank called Metal. It's a great service, looks fantastic. The problem is it sits outside the core banking stack. RBS recently also launched a new product with ESME loans. Again, sits outside the core banking stack. We want to be a data aggregation layer and a data intelligence layer that sits inside the core bank so that we can better service those 90% of the SMEs that already are banked with those banks around the world.
And do you think the only problem for banks being more kind of targeting toward the SMEs is just about that they're missing the data, or maybe it's about profitability or lack of knowledge on product development and all this stuff?
It's all of those things. It's all of those things. And I think it's, again, to be absolutely clear, it's not about the data. It's about the intelligence that the data provides us. So, for example, you might see some SMEs who are going through a scale-up process. They're 10 to 15 staff doing £5 million turnover, and they're looking for the next stage of growth. They have very different needs to a micro SME who's 0 to 9 employees, who is just constantly looking at cash flow. They might have very different needs to a manufacturer who has got working capital issues and looking for working capital finance next time they secure a big contract. Do they have the capital in the business to support that contract? So I think the important bit is it's the intelligence that our intelligence layer provides the banks to be able to go, you're different from a services business, you're different from a manufacturer, and you are different from a retailer.
Okay, and the data, you said you're a data layer on top. You aggregate the data how?
We aggregate it and categorize it through using different algorithms that our developers have developed. We have a team of data scientists who
but the data itself about me as I have an SME. How will you get the data?
Oh, this is all permission-based. So in essence, what we would be doing, permission-based. So it would be very much about making sure that we're creating a user journey and flow where you give access to your open banking data. You may approve that the bank can use the bank data
in the
for
UK, there's
this
a lot of
analysis.
API-based packages.
So, but besides the open APIs, majority of data is coming from within the bank.
A blend, a complete blend. So it'll be just picture a huge data lake. It's got the bank's data. Normally that's uncategorized transactions. I'm sure a lot of the banks won't mind me saying that. But then you overlay that with the open banking data. You overlay that with the accounting package data. You overlay that with potentially some payment services that they may be using like Stripe. And then once you've got that holistic view, then you start cleansing from that layer.
But your ability to do that is highly dependent on the structural elements of a geography, right? And now you're offering that as a white label, so I'm assuming it's financial institutions that have cross-geographic coverage, right? So how are you looking to...
No, it's an excellent question. Currently, all of the proof of concepts that we have in flight are focused on one nation, one country.
Okay.
Well, it's UK, Finland, Spain, Ireland, and two in the UK.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Awesome, thank you. Our third startup.
Today, if I steal your password today, I can do pretty much everything. I can steal your data, I can steal your money, I can steal your blocks, wherever. I can do anything. I can be you. So the password, if you think, is you. But that is not really true, is it? So we realized that the way you type the password makes you different. Now, I would like you to see this video presentation. So my CTO has a simple application with a 4-digit PIN. It types the password, is 2580, and is able to access normally. Now, the fraudster tried to impersonate the Magna, and he typed the same PIN code. Now, in this scenario, it doesn't work. It doesn't let you in. And the reason is simple. There are thousands of ways to type the same password, the same digit PIN. Now, think about the way you hold the phone, the pressure you put in the finger, the speed of typing the password. There are different factors together that are related to your behavior when you type the password. All together, these factors are unique for each individual, as much as a face or a voice or a finger. So we created an AI that is able to recognize the user by the way they type the password. And the result is an additional layer of security that sits on the top of mobile or web application that actually protect the user, detect the frauds, without asking anything. So no face, no voice, no data, no privacy involved here. And it can be very reliable. Now, the demo you saw before, that 4-digit PIN, around 2,000 people tried to hack that device. And we had 0 false positives so far. So with this, we can give the tools for banks and enterprise to detect frauds, detect account takeover, password sharing, bot attack, and we can give essentially the accounts to up to $1 billion of losses every year to banks and enterprises. And we give this on a risk-free environment, wherever you pay only on the frauds. So you know always that the benefits have 10 times the cost of our solution, so it's risk-free. We already started, so we won several awards over the time, and we are now part of PayPal Incubator, and we are initiating different pilots with some of the biggest bank in India and Mexico. And for this, we built a very strong team, expert in AI, machine learning. I know, it's the jacket. Expert in cybersecurity, sales, and as of now, we are closing our first round. So if you have 500K to spare today, I'm happy to talk. I'm just over there. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for the presentation. Go for it.
So what's your go-to-market? Why do you want to go to banks, actually? Isn't it more of an end consumer product?
So the banks are the ones that are more interested because they already have their solution. They already have password in place, and they cannot get rid of that. You can think about biometrics, but unfortunately, they have the mandate to keep the password as let's say, for accessibility reason. So in this scenario, the only way to improve security of the solution is to use a solution like this. Because so biometric like face or voice, Face ID or Touch ID, whenever they don't work, you just type the password. So until there is the alternative of using the password, you don't have any more security. So the biometrics is just conveniency. So they are seeking for a solution that increases the level of security of the password without causing the friction. So without asking, let's say, finger or voice, without asking any kind of addition.
And what's the interface? Is it an app or what?
It's an SDK that they install in a mobile or web application.
Okay, got it.
So what do you do? Do you train your phone to recognize your method? How does that work?
It can be a phone, it can be a computer, yes,
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
what, you mentioned there were no false positives. What's the false negative rate?
So in that specific case was, let's say, 1 out of 20, 30 times. But of course, depends from user to user and to device.
And what do they do? They just type again then?
Yeah, in that, yeah. Well, consider that we are not blocking the user. What we do is we give a score to the bank, and the bank decides what to do. Say you have an high score, you pass. You have a low score, maybe you ask a two-factor authentication. Or otherwise, you send a mail of notification there is something.
How does it work on a, so I take my app, I type it in the first time, and from my one typing, you can guess if it's me or
well,
someone
of
else.
course, at least one typing should happen. Then the more you type, the more the AI is trained to recognize you.
So competition, who would be your competitors, direct competitors?
So there are, of course, large competitors like BioCatch, BehaviorSec,
I mean,
Securode. Yeah.
direct competitors.
Yeah, these are direct competitors.
Why are you-
Typing DNA, maybe, I don't know,
DNA, yeah.
cryptographic.
Let's say I'm considering the large startup, the large companies. Yeah, Tapping DNA is a startup, so let's say we are same size, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's quite a competitive market, but it's a big market at the same time. It seems like then you're augmenting the capabilities, right? So you're a component of a bigger stack. Where are you looking to plug into that? And I guess considering the revenue per user versus the long sales cycles of a bank, right?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is more around you putting the same effort as if you're offering a huge solution to a bank, but you're offering a component provider, right? So the kind of LTV CAC or considering sales cycles as well.
Yes, banks, they are not willing to completely get rid of their existing architecture to use our solution. So what we are doing eventually with the pilot is that we are going to integrate with the existing environment, the existing risk analysis platform they have. So we can just give the score and they use it as the...
Can I ask a question about your revenue? I mean, it seems that banks often just palm it off on the user if there's a fraudulent loss, you know. So, I mean, are you so sure that the banks actually care?
Well, I mean...
They care for the regulator.
But they have to refund in case something happening. So, for example, there are some banks that are facing like $2 million of frauds every year.
Yeah.
Now, if there is a way to reduce that, for them is, of course, whole revenues.
Okay.
And what's the typical price point?
So, as I said, we are dealing with banks that they don't want to take the risk of implementing this. So what we are saying is if you have a specific amount of frauds, we just charge 1/10 of that. And that is the cost of our platform.
So you assume also the liability if your system fails and it's frauded from their case. How does that work?
Well, consider always that they will have to decide what to do.
Understand,
so
but if your accuracy score is, let's say, 99%, and they allow it, and then your system failed, who is liable for the damages?
We would like to avoid that liability for now.
But then there's reputational risk, right? If that happens early on.
But of course, consider that, yes, it may fail, but if 99% of times is right, maybe worse, take the risk. I mean.
No, you didn't, I'm not sure if you understood my question. Is who is are you as a startup responsible for the damages if your system wrongly flagged it?
We cannot be liable for that. Yeah. I mean, as a startup, I will say no. Okay.
Just very brief remind, what was the traction? You had certain banks, but are you live? Is it a pilot?
No, we are in a pre-revenue stage, so we are starting this pilot application now.
Okay.
I have just one more question.
Sure.
So what's the team? I think I missed that, the background of the team.
It's a large, strong team, but we have 7 people, mostly in Bangalore, all especially dev and 1 sales guy. Yeah.
And okay, B2B sales, what's the background?
It's all B2Bs, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, certainly one that stuck with me after seeing all the spiders.
Who has a fear of snakes? Raise your hand, please. Phobia of snakes, spiders. What if I tell you, during the break, I've put spiders and snakes under your chair? You would have freaked out, definitely. Our software is helping, using virtual reality with psychologists, to take that fear out of you completely. We have done our clinical trials, and the result is 97% improvement in the fears after the treatment with psychologists using our software in virtual reality environment. We have our sales pipeline with 3 different clinics in 3 different countries at present. And our next step is where we would make those spiders and snakes be really felt on your body. They are not going to be real, but you will really feel them contracting on your body and you would feel them crawling. The next step would be where we would give option to, we are in process of developing this one. We will be giving psychologists to read exactly what is happening in the brain at that moment when that contraction is happening, you are facing that fear. So they can diagnose exactly which way your brain is doing. This is our business and technical team. This is on the business development. Our pride is this psychological team. Psychologists, we have done huge amount of research based on each and every scenario. Before we have created every scenario, in cumulative, we are talking about over 11,000 hours of research in between 8 psychologists, neuropsychology, behavior psychology, and what we are also addressing is mental disorders and social issues, likes of autism, schizophrenia, dementia, especially feeling left alone, family issues, likes of bullying, cyberbullying is another one, teenager, all those things we are working, and development is in process. So we are going to be launching soon. Research is done at a huge level. Licensing model would be our pricing based on that one. Only €5 per session will be charging the psychologist, and that will generate over 3,900 per year one license. From one, the market size in UK and Ireland alone is over 10,000 psychologists, which could generate, if we just get over 40% of those psychologists, including phobia and social one, we can generate over 16 million per year in repeat revenue alone. We are the leading company in the market, especially there is no other company who is doing social behavior using virtual reality and the treatment on that aspect. This is a summary, what we do, and that's us. Thank you. We are revolutionizing phobia treatment.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand. Maybe my fault, but where's the IP? Is it kind of a, what's like the unique IP that you've created?
The software and the research, and what we are developing is a body armor, where we will have the contraction on patient's body. So what happens is, first step is exposure therapy, when they would feel that one. Also when they come out of that exposure therapy, so they're exposed to snakes or spiders or heights. So that's one level done. Next level we are working, which we have patent application pending for that one. So they would feel that contraction on their body. So they are using VR.
And on the other end of the VR, it's a software. It's not a human being. It's not a therapist on the other end. It's kind of a...
No. This will be monitored by a psychologist. So we are not giving it at a loose end. No. It will be controlled environment in the presence of psychologists, so they can see the behavior, what is coming out of that patient. First, during the exposure therapy, then when they're feeling that contraction, because after the exposure therapy, they are comfortable. So when they are exposed, they are not afraid. So when they are feeling on their body, so at that stage, extra fear is coming out. So psychologists are looking at them, that what is happening, and they will treat accordingly.
So I can see that you're deepening exposure therapy effectively. That's what you're doing. I didn't understand the stuff about autism or schizophrenia. I mean, the evidence base just isn't there for this sort of therapy for those.
No, there is, the research we have done, psychologists, 8 psychologists in our team, they have done their MSc in behavior psychology, neuropsychology, PhD in neuropsychology. Yeah. So they have done research. They have spent over 11,000 hours in between them in last 18 to 24 months. Wow. That, yes, this is possibility. We can develop a software and exposure to those ones, so calm down them, or the behavior changes based on science and psychology. So they would be exposed to that one, and they are taking it a step instead of just talking to somebody or just trying to avoid somebody, or he has, God forbid, some problem, so just not to touch them or not to talk to them, but expose them and take it to them to make them comfortable.
Okay, so deepening, the basic thing is that you're deepening VR.
Yes.
Okay.
So it seems like a very fragmented market of psychologists. How are you looking to reach them, like distribute your product?
It's B2B. All psychologists, psychology clinics, hospitals, B2G are our target. Only UK and Ireland at this stage, they stand registered over 10,400 psychologists. And out of them, about 3,300 psychologists are doing phobia treatment, but only 2 or 3 are using virtual reality. They are exposure, not on the contraction side. So when we are combining social and phobia, we are talking alone in UK and Ireland over 10,000 psychologists who are treating social aspect as well and phobia.
And
But you have to find each one of those separately and persuade each of them
that's right.
separately that they
It's a
should be
market.
interested.
It's a market. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a sales process. We have to go into.
And how many, do you have the figures of how many patients they have that would benefit from this?
Yes, on average, they are doing about 3 therapies a day, right? And that is the market. I mean, on a weekly basis, they are doing about 15 of them.
Okay.
And the pricing model is based on that one, only €5 per session, which will generate €325 per month.
Okay.
Per year, 3,900. And we combine, if 40% only of that market of 10,000, we are talking about 16 million per annum revenue. It's a licensing, so it will be every year. That's only UK and Ireland, and we are targeting international. Our sales, we are talking to 3 different clinics in 3 different countries. One of them is government in Pristina. We are talking, they want to have this exposure therapy in their psychology clinics.
Got it. And I guess you're highly dependent on VR, right? I mean, VR is evolving, VR is sometimes experimental stage, sometimes being adopted. How are you looking to be able to be compatible with all the different hardware, middleware?
We are going to be hardware independent. Any goggles can be used, so we are more on putting systems together and the research base. I mean, they can use any Windows or Mac or iOS or Android. So we are not focusing on that one to be niche on that one. No, we are giving open platform. Our strength is a solution which is based on the research, on the specialities.
Got it.
Are there any competitors?
In exposure therapy, yes, there are. There are a few of them, but none of them is doing contraction or the actual feel on the body. So that's why we have submitted our patent application on that part. Also, nobody is doing on the social aspect with virtual reality at this stage. So we are the leader in the market.
Anything else? I think we're good. Perfect. Thank you.